The room was thick with tension. Seated around a circular table in the hidden bunker beneath the Rockies, Earth's most powerful leaders gathered, their faces marked with exhaustion and fear. The overhead lights cast harsh shadows, mirroring the bleakness of their situation. Earth had mere days, maybe hours, before the Drakkon Empire's invasion fleet would breach the atmosphere. The countdown to humanity's extinction had already begun. Captain Maria Alvarez, a seasoned military strategist with a reputation for her cool under pressure, was not accustomed to feeling fear. But today, fear clung to her like a second skin. She scanned the room, her eyes meeting those of Dr. Isaac Vance, the brilliant physicist who had been more of a mystery than a colleague for the past few months. His face was gaunt, his eyes distant as if he was mentally far from this dire situation. Across from them sat Lia Renko, Earth's chief diplomat. Her reputation was that of a woman who could negotiate peace between the most implacable foes. But even her confidence seemed shaken. As she spoke, her voice trembled, betraying the calm facade she tried to maintain. "We have no choice. The Drakkon fleet will be here within hours. We've exhausted all options, diplomatic, strategic, military. We've tried everything to negotiate, to plead for mercy. But the Drakkon are relentless," Lia said, her voice wavering. Maria nodded, her thoughts drifting to the Ethereal Echo. It was humanity's last gamble, a secret weapon so classified that only those in this room knew of its existence. "We need to use the Echo," Maria stated bluntly. "It's our last hope." A murmur of agreement rippled around the table, but there was also hesitation. The Ethereal Echo had only been tested once, and the results had been both astonishing and terrifying. It had capabilities beyond their understanding, beyond what even Dr. Vance could fully explain. Dr. Vance finally spoke, his voice low and tinged with a mix of awe and fear. "The Ethereal Echo it's more than just a weapon. It's something ancient, something that taps into the very fabric of reality. I don't know if we're ready to unleash its full potential. We still don't understand what it could do." "What choice do we have?" Maria countered, frustration boiling over. "We either use it, or we surrender and watch as Earth is reduced to ashes." There was silence as the weight of her words settled over the group. Maria could feel her pulse quicken. The Drakkon were not known for mercy. They were conquerors who thrived on domination and destruction. Earth was nothing more than another planet to subjugate, another civilization to enslave or annihilate. The Ethereal Echo, the weapon of last resort, was not just an invention of human ingenuity. It was something more, something otherworldly. The technology had been discovered deep beneath Earth's surface, embedded in the bedrock, preserved in a way that suggested it was meant to be found. But who had placed it there, and why, remained a mystery. Dr. Vance had been the one to uncover it during an archaeological dig, a dig that was supposed to be a cover for secret military tests. The discovery had changed everything. The device was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. It wasn't just a bomb or a beam. It was something that could bend spacetime, manipulate energy at a quantum level, and even, some speculated, alter reality itself. "We know so little about what it can do," Lia whispered, her face pale. "What if we unleash something even worse than the Drakkon?" Maria shook her head. "Worse than the end of humanity? I doubt it." A soft beeping interrupted their tense discussion. A screen flickered to life at the far end of the room, showing the latest surveillance from their orbital satellites. The Drakkon fleet was moving into position, their vast ships blotting out the stars. The countdown was nearing its end. Maria took a deep breath, her decision made. "We activate the Ethereal Echo. Prepare for deployment." Dr. Vance hesitated, then nodded. He knew there was no other option. He keyed a series of commands into the terminal in front of him, his fingers trembling slightly. As he worked, a sense of unease settled in the pit of his stomach. He had always been driven by curiosity, by the pursuit of knowledge, but this was different. This felt like playing with fire. "Maria," he said quietly, his voice barely a whisper. "There's something you need to know. About the Echo, it's not just alien technology. It's as if it's alive. like it has a will of its own. Maria stared at him, trying to process his words. "What are you saying, Isaac?" I'm saying we might not be in control of it. Not fully. The last test, it wasn't just a malfunction. It was like it knew what it was doing, like it chose to act on its own." A chill ran down Maria's spine. The implications of what he was saying were almost too much to comprehend. But there was no time to dwell on it. The Drakkon were closing in, and they had to act. "Then we make sure it chooses our side," Maria said firmly. "Prepare for deployment." As the team moved to their stations, the tension in the room grew palpable. The Ethereal Echo was housed deep within the bunker, protected by layers of reinforced steel and concrete. It sat in a massive chamber, suspended in a containment field, its sleek surface shimmering with an otherworldly light. It was both beautiful and terrifying, a perfect fusion of alien design and human engineering. Maria watched as Dr. Vance approached the console, his face pale and drawn. He began the activation sequence, his fingers moving with practiced precision. The room hummed with energy, and the lights dimmed slightly as the echo drew power from the facility's core. Lia moved to stand beside Maria, her expression a mix of determination and fear. "Do you really think this will work?" she asked quietly. Maria didn't answer right away. She stared at the echo, her mind racing with possibilities. "It has to," she said finally. "It's our only chance." The console beeped, and Dr. Vance stepped back, his face tense. "Activation sequence initiated. We have 5 minutes until full power." Maria nodded, her eyes never leaving the echo. She could feel a strange pull, a sense of connection to the device. It was as if it was calling to her, reaching out across the void. She shook her head, trying to clear her thoughts. There was no time for doubt. "Everyone, prepare for deployment," she ordered. "This is it. This is what we've been fighting for." The team moved into position, their faces set with grim determination. They knew the risks, knew the stakes, but they also knew they had no other choice. The Drakkon were coming, and they would not stop until Earth was theirs. The room fell silent as the countdown began. The only sound was the hum of the echo, growing louder with each passing second. Maria felt her heart pounding in her chest, her hands clenched at her sides. This was it. The moment of truth. As the countdown reached 0, the echo unleashed its power. A blinding light filled the room, and for a moment it felt as if time itself had stopped. Maria felt a strange sensation, like she was floating, disconnected from reality. And then, just as suddenly, it was over. The light faded, and the room returned to normal. Maria blinked, trying to clear her vision. She looked around, her heart racing. "Did it work?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Dr. Vance stared at the console, his face pale. I don't know," he said slowly. "The readings are off the charts. I've never seen anything like this." Before anyone could respond, the screen at the far end of the room flickered to life. The image of the Drakkon fleet appeared, their ships still in position, but something was different. The stars behind them seemed to blur and warp, as if reality itself was bending. "What the hell is happening?" Maria demanded, her voice rising with panic. Dr. Vance stared at the screen, his eyes wide with shock. I think we just opened a rift in spacetime." Maria's heart sank. This was not what they had planned. The Ethereal Echo was supposed to be their salvation, their last hope. But now, it seemed, they had unleashed something far more dangerous. Lia stepped forward, her face pale. "What does that mean? What have we done?" Dr. Vance shook his head, his expression grim. "I don't know," he said quietly, "but I think we just changed the rules of the game, and not just for us, but for the entire universe." As the reality of their situation set in, a new sound filled the room, a soft, eerie hum that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Maria felt a chill run down her spine. Whatever they had done, there was no going back. "Prepare for impact," she ordered, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her heart. "Whatever's coming, we face it together." The team braced themselves, their eyes fixed on the screen. The hum grew louder, and the air seemed to vibrate with energy. Maria clenched her fists, ready for whatever came next. She knew they were on the brink of something unimaginable, something that could change the course of history. The room was still reeling from the shock of the Ethereal Echo's activation. Maria's breathing was heavy as she tried to steady herself. She could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on her. The air was thick with tension, and the eerie hum that filled the chamber only added to the growing sense of dread. Her mind raced with questions, but she forced herself to stay calm. She had to be the one to keep it together, to show strength, even when everything seemed to be unraveling. Dr. Vance was hunched over the console, his hands trembling. He was the only one who truly understood the potential consequences of what they had just done. I think the Echo has interacted with the very fabric of reality, he stammered. We might have tapped into something we can't control, something far beyond our comprehension. Maria clenched her fists, frustration boiling inside her. You need to give me more than that, Isaac. What does that mean for us? For Earth? Is the Drakkon fleet gone or not? Isaac glanced at her, his face a mask of worry. The fleet, it's still there, but the rift, it's distorting space-time. We might have shifted things, altered the state of everything around us. It's like we've bent reality in ways that shouldn't be possible. Lia, standing at the edge of the room, finally broke her silence. Her voice was raw, filled with a mix of fear and anger. You mean to tell us that we might have just torn a hole in the universe, and you don't know what's going to happen next? What have we done, Isaac? Isaac rubbed his temples, trying to piece together his thoughts. It's not just a hole, it's more like a wound in the fabric of existence itself. And the Echo, it's somehow tied to it. I don't know if it's trying to heal it or make it worse. We've unleashed something ancient, something that was buried here for a reason. Maria could feel the weight of Isaac's words pressing on her. She needed to understand, to grasp what they were truly facing. Ancient? You said before that the Echo was discovered deep underground, but you never told us what you really found down there. What aren't you telling us, Isaac? He hesitated, his eyes distant as if he was peering into some hidden part of his mind, dredging up memories that he had tried to bury. When we first discovered the Echo, it wasn't just a piece of technology. It was part of something larger, something that felt alive. The symbols around it, the way it was positioned, it was almost like it was being contained, restrained by the Earth itself. I think whoever put it there did so to keep it from being found. Lia's voice was sharp, cutting through the tension. And yet, we went and dug it up, brought it to the surface, and now we've activated it without truly knowing what it is. What were we thinking? A heavy silence fell over the room as they all processed the implications. Maria's mind was spinning, trying to connect the dots. Isaac, when you say it's alive, what do you mean? Is it conscious? Is it aware of us? Isaac nodded slowly, his expression dark. I don't know if alive is the right word, but when we first powered it on, it reacted. Not like a machine, but more like a mind. It was as if it knew we were there, that it understood what we were trying to do. And when we activated it just now, it felt like it was reaching out, trying to make contact. Maria felt a shiver run down her spine. The idea that they were dealing with something sentient, something that could think and act on its own, was terrifying. So, what are we supposed to do now? We can't just shut it off, can we? No, Isaac replied. Once it's active, it's like it's awake. And I think it's trying to communicate with us, or at least with something. We've started a process that we don't understand, and now we have to see it through. We have to figure out what it wants, and why it was hidden for so long. The screen that showed the distorted image of the Drakkon fleet flickered again. This time, the distortion seemed to intensify, as if the universe itself was writhing in pain. Maria could see the ships twisting, not just moving but bending in ways that defied physics. Isaac, what's happening to them? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Isaac stared at the screen, his eyes wide with a mix of horror and fascination. I think I think they're caught in the rift. The echo's power is warping reality around them. It's like they're stuck in a loop, a moment in time that keeps repeating. We've trapped them, but I don't know for how long. Lia stepped closer, her face pale. And what about us? Are we safe from whatever this thing is doing? Isaac shook his head. I don't know. This is beyond anything I've ever seen. The Echo doesn't just change the rules, it rewrites them. We're in uncharted territory here. Maria knew they couldn't stay here, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. They had to act, to make sense of this chaos before it consumed them all. Okay, we need to regroup and figure this out. Isaac, I need you to go through all the data we have on the Echo. Find anything that can help us understand what it's doing. Lia, get in touch with the other outposts. See if they've experienced anything similar. We need all the information we can get. As they moved to their tasks, the tension in the room remained, but there was a sense of purpose now. They had a mission, a goal. They couldn't afford to be afraid, not now. Maria took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She had to believe that they could find a way out of this, that they could somehow control the power they had unleashed. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were playing with forces far beyond their comprehension. Forces that had been hidden away for a reason, and now that they had been unleashed, there was no telling what would happen next. Isaac worked furiously at the console, his fingers flying over the keys as he tried to pull up everything he could find on the Echo. He knew they didn't have much time. The rift was growing, and if they didn't find a way to stabilize it, it could tear apart everything around them. Maria watched him, her mind racing. She needed answers, needed to know what they were dealing with. Isaac, when you say the Echo is like a mind, do you mean it's intelligent? Can it think for itself? Isaac paused, his eyes fixed on the screen. I think it's more like an instinct. It doesn't think the way we do, but it reacts. It responds to stimuli, to energy. When we activated it, we gave it a purpose, a direction. But now, it's like it's searching for something it was designed to find. Maria frowned, trying to make sense of his words. Searching for what? Isaac looked up at her, his expression grave. I don't know, but whatever it is, I think it's tied to why it was buried in the first place. The Echo is ancient, older than any civilization we know of. It was hidden because someone, or something, didn't want it to be found. And now that it's awake, it's trying to complete whatever mission it was given. Lia stepped forward, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. So what do we do? How do we stop it? Isaac shook his head. I don't think we can stop it, not without destroying it, and if we do that, we might trigger something even worse. Right now, our best bet is to try to communicate with it, to understand what it wants. Maria nodded, her mind made up. Then that's what we'll do. We'll find a way to talk to it, to figure out what it's looking for, and if we can, maybe we can use it to our advantage, to turn it against the Drakkon. Isaac hesitated, then nodded slowly. It's a long shot, but it's all we have. I'll need to access the core, to see if there's any way to interface with it directly. Maria looked at him, her eyes filled with determination. Then do it. Whatever it takes, we need to understand this thing before it's too late. As Isaac worked, Maria couldn't shake the feeling that they were in over their heads. They had unleashed a force that they couldn't control, a force that was beyond anything they had ever encountered. But she also knew they had no choice. They had to find a way to make this work, to turn the Echo into their greatest weapon, or risk losing everything. Minutes stretched into an eternity as Isaac continued his work, the room filled with the low hum of the Echo's power. Maria paced back and forth, her mind racing with possibilities, with fears of what might happen next. She knew they were running out of time. The rift was growing, and with it, the risk of total annihilation. Finally, Isaac looked up, his face pale but determined. I think I've found a way to communicate with it. It's risky, but it's our only chance. Maria nodded, steeling herself for what was to come. Do it. Whatever it takes. Isaac took a deep breath, then began the process. The room seemed to darken, the hum of the Echo growing louder. Maria could feel the air vibrate around her, a strange energy filling the space. She braced herself, knowing that whatever happened next, there was no turning back. As Isaac initiated the connection, a strange sensation washed over them. It was like a wave of energy passing through them, filling them with a sense of both awe and terror. Maria felt a presence, something vast and incomprehensible, something that seemed to stretch beyond time and space. And then she heard it, a voice, not in her ears, but in her mind. A deep, resonant voice that seemed to echo from the very core of her being. "Who awakens me?" Maria's heart pounded in her chest, fear gripping her as she realized that they had indeed made contact. The echo was alive, aware, and now it was speaking to them. She glanced at Isaac, who nodded, his face pale but resolute. "Go ahead," he whispered. "Talk to it." Maria swallowed hard, then spoke, her voice trembling. We are the people of Earth. We found you buried beneath our world, and we activated you to defend ourselves. We mean no harm." There was a pause, a silence that seemed to stretch on forever, and then the voice spoke again, its tone calm but commanding. "I am the Echo, the last remnant of a lost race. I was hidden to protect the universe from my power. You have awakened me, and now you must prove your worth. What do you seek?" Maria took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "We seek your help. We are under attack by an alien force, the Drakkon. They seek to destroy us, to conquer our world. We need your power to fight them, to protect our people." The voice was silent for a moment, as if considering her words, and then it spoke again, its tone measured and deliberate. "Power comes at a cost. To wield me, you must be willing to pay that price. Are you prepared for the consequences?" Maria hesitated, uncertainty gnawing at her. She knew they had no choice, but the fear of the unknown was almost overwhelming. She glanced at Isaac, who gave her a reassuring nod. They had come this far. They couldn't back down now. "Yes," she said finally, her voice firm. "We are prepared. We will do whatever it takes to survive, to protect our world." The echo seemed to hum with energy, a strange light filling the room, and then the voice spoke again, its tone filled with a sense of finality. "Very well. I will lend you my power, but know this. Once unleashed, it cannot be contained. The path you choose now will determine the fate of not just your world, but all worlds. Choose wisely, for the consequences will be far-reaching." Maria felt a chill run down her spine, but she nodded, her resolve firm. "We understand, and we accept." The light grew brighter, the hum louder, as the echo prepared to release its power. Maria braced herself, knowing that they were about to cross a line from which there would be no return. And as the room was engulfed in light, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of something monumental, something that would change the course of history forever. They had made their choice, and now they would have to live with the consequences. The room was quiet, save for the faint hum of the ethereal echoes still resonating in the background. Maria, Isaac, and Lia stood together, their minds grappling with the gravity of the situation. The echo's words echoed in Maria's thoughts. Power comes at a cost. She wondered what that cost would be, and if they were truly prepared to pay it. Isaac sat down heavily in his chair, running his hands through his hair. The echo's sudden sentience and willingness to speak had confirmed what he had feared all along. This wasn't just a machine, it was something far more profound. He turned to Maria, his eyes wide with realization. "We need to know more about where this thing came from. If it's as old as it seems, there might be records, ancient texts, or artifacts that can tell us what we're dealing with," Isaac said, his voice steady but urgent. Maria nodded, her thoughts aligning with Isaac's. "The echo isn't just a weapon. It's a relic from a time far beyond our understanding. We need to dig deeper into its origins to know what we're dealing with and what consequences our actions might have." Lia, still shaken by the experience of hearing the echo's voice, interjected. "You think it has something to do with the alien blueprints you found when you first unearthed the echo? Could those give us any clues?" Isaac's eyes brightened with a spark of realization. Yes, exactly. The blueprints. When we first found the echo, we also found these strange engravings and symbols, written in a language we've never seen before. I've been trying to decipher them, but I've barely scratched the surface. Maybe it's time to revisit those texts. Maria glanced around the room, taking in the flickering screens, the scattered documents, and the faint glow emanating from the echo. All right, let's gather everything we have on those blueprints. Isaac, get your research notes, and Lia, bring up any data files related to the dig site. We need to understand the echo's history if we're going to use it wisely. Isaac led the way to a secluded part of the research lab where he kept his most sensitive materials. Shelves filled with dusty tomes, digital pads, and stacks of paper lined the walls. At the center of the room, a large table was covered with a detailed map of the dig site where they had first discovered the echo. Isaac quickly sifted through the piles, pulling out a thick, weathered notebook bound in dark leather. He opened it to a page filled with intricate sketches and symbols. These are the inscriptions we found near the echo. They were etched deep into the bedrock, far below the surface. Some of them are familiar, resembling ancient Earth languages, but others are unlike anything we've ever seen. Maria leaned over the table, studying the sketches. You think these inscriptions could tell us more about the echo's purpose? Why it was hidden away? Isaac nodded. It's possible. The deeper we dig, the more it seems like Earth was never just our home. It might have been something else, something far more significant in the cosmic order. The echo and these blueprints suggest that Earth has been a focal point in the universe for a long time, maybe even a battleground for alien civilizations. Lia frowned, trying to piece together the implications. A battleground? For what? Why would aliens be fighting over Earth? Isaac glanced at her, then back to the notebook. That's what we need to find out. These texts could hold the key. If Earth was once a battleground, it means our planet might have witnessed conflicts far beyond human history. Conflicts that could explain why the echo was hidden so deep beneath the surface. Maria's gaze moved from the notebook to the map of the dig site. How deep was the echo when you found it? Over 10 kilometers, Isaac replied. It was buried in a chamber, surrounded by layers of sediment that date back millions of years. The deeper we went, the stranger the materials became. It's as if the echo was placed there intentionally, far from the reach of any civilization hidden, but waiting to be found. Maria's mind churned with the implications. So, if it was hidden so deliberately, maybe it wasn't meant for us. Maybe it was meant for someone or something else. Lia crossed her arms, her face grim. And we've just woken it up. If it was hidden to protect something or keep it from falling into the wrong hands, then we might have just set off a chain of events that could have catastrophic consequences. Isaac's eyes flickered with a mix of excitement and fear. That's exactly why we need to decipher these texts, to understand what the echo is and why it was hidden. If there's even a chance that we've stumbled onto something that was meant to stay buried, we need to know why. Hours passed as the team meticulously combed through Isaac's notes and data files. They cross-referenced ancient Earth languages with the alien symbols, searching for any clues that could reveal the echo's origins. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, Maria found herself drawn to a particular set of symbols that seemed familiar. Wait, she said, pointing to a series of spirals and lines etched into the stone. I've seen these before. In ancient texts from Sumeria, there were references to spirals as symbols of time and space. What if these aren't just symbols, but a form of proto-language that predates even our earliest civilizations? Isaac leaned in, his interest piqued. You're right. These spirals, they could represent something more than just decorations. They might be a code, a way to communicate something fundamental about the universe, maybe even the power that the echo wields. Lia's eyes widened with realization. If that's true, then these texts might not just be a record of history, but a guide, a warning about the echo's true purpose. Maria's heart pounded with excitement and fear. Then we need to decipher this code, find out what these symbols are telling us. If the echo is as ancient as we think, It could hold knowledge far beyond our understanding, knowledge that could either save us or destroy us. Isaac began to work furiously, cross-referencing the symbols with ancient Earth text and modern algorithms designed to decode unknown languages. The more he delved into the data, the more connections he began to see. It was like piecing together a puzzle from a million scattered fragments, each one revealing a part of a larger, more complex picture. Hours turned into a blur as the team worked tirelessly, their focus unwavering. They knew that the answers they sought could mean the difference between survival and extinction. And then, as the first light of dawn began to creep into the room, Isaac found something. "I think I've got it," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "These symbols, they're not just a language. They're a map of the cosmos. And these lines here, they mark places of significance, places where battles were fought and won, where entire civilizations rose and fell." Maria felt a chill run down her spine. A map of the cosmos, and Earth is one of those places. Isaac nodded, his eyes wide with revelation. Yes, Earth is marked as a nexus point, a place of convergence for different civilizations. And these other symbols, they seem to represent different alien races, each one vying for control over this nexus point. Lia's face was pale. "So, Earth was a battleground, just like you said. But why? Why would so many alien civilizations fight over our planet?" Isaac shook his head, still trying to process the enormity of what he was uncovering. "I don't know. But there's more. These symbols here, they represent the Echo. It was designed as a weapon, a tool to end conflicts, to bring balance. But there's something else, something that suggests it was also a key." Maria's heart raced. A key to what? Isaac's voice trembled as he spoke. A key to unlocking the universe itself. The Echo wasn't just meant to be a weapon. It was meant to be a gateway, a way to access the very fabric of reality. Whoever controlled the Echo could control the fate of entire star systems, maybe even galaxies. Lia took a step back, her face filled with a mix of awe and horror. "And now we have it. We have the power to reshape the universe, or destroy it." Maria felt a deep sense of unease settle in her stomach. They had unearthed something far beyond their understanding, something that could change the course of history forever. And now, with the Drakkon threat looming, they had to decide how to use it. Isaac's voice broke through her thoughts, filled with urgency. "We need to be careful, Maria. The Echo's power is immense, but it's also dangerous. If we use it without understanding the consequences, we could unleash something far worse than the Drakkon." Maria nodded, her mind racing with the weight of the decision before them. They had a choice to make, a choice that would determine the fate of not just their world, but potentially all worlds. She knew they couldn't afford to make the wrong one. "We need more information," she said finally. "We need to understand the full scope of the Echo's power and what it means for us. If Earth was a battleground before, it might become one again. We need to be ready for whatever comes next." Isaac and Lia nodded in agreement, their expressions grim. They had a lot of work to do, and not much time to do it. But they were determined to see it through, no matter the cost. As they prepared to delve deeper into the mysteries of the Echo and its origins, Maria couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something monumental, something that would change everything they thought they knew about the universe and their place in it. And as the first rays of sunlight streamed into the room, illuminating the ancient texts and symbols, she knew one thing for certain: the Echo was far more than just a weapon. It was a key to unlocking the secrets of the cosmos, a key that could either save them or doom them all. The room was quiet, save for the faint hum of the Ethereal Echo still resonating in the background. Maria, Isaac, and Lia stood together, their minds grappling with the gravity of the situation. The Echo's words echoed in Maria's thoughts. Power comes at a cost. She wondered what that cost would be, and if they were truly prepared to pay it. Isaac sat down heavily in his chair, running his hands through his hair. The Echo's sudden sentience and willingness to speak had confirmed what he had feared all along. This wasn't just a machine. It was something far more profound. He turned to Maria, his eyes wide with realization. We need to know more about where this thing came from. If it's as old as it seems, there might be records, ancient text, or artifacts that can tell us what we're dealing with, Isaac said, his voice steady but urgent. Maria nodded, her thoughts aligning with Isaac's. The Echo isn't just a weapon. It's a relic from a time far beyond our understanding. We need to dig deeper into its origins to know what we're dealing with and what consequences our actions might have. Lia, still shaken by the experience of hearing the Echo's voice, interjected. You think it has something to do with the alien blueprints you found when you first unearthed the Echo? Could those give us any clues? Isaac's eyes brightened with a spark of realization. Yes, exactly. The blueprints. When we first found the Echo, we also found these strange engravings and symbols, written in a language we've never seen before. I've been trying to decipher them, but I've barely scratched the surface. Maybe it's time to revisit those texts. Maria glanced around the room, taking in the flickering screens, the scattered documents, and the faint glow emanating from the Echo. All right, let's gather everything we have on those blueprints. Isaac, get your research notes, and Lia, bring up any data files related to the dig site. We need to understand the Echo's history if we're going to use it wisely. Isaac led the way to a secluded part of the research lab where he kept his most sensitive materials. Shelves filled with dusty tomes, digital pads, and stacks of paper lined the walls. At the center of the room, a large table was covered with a detailed map of the dig site where they had first discovered the Echo. Isaac quickly sifted through the piles, pulling out a thick, weathered notebook bound in dark leather. He opened it to a page filled with intricate sketches and symbols. These are the inscriptions we found near the Echo. They were etched deep into the bedrock, far below the surface. Some of them are familiar, resembling ancient Earth languages, but others are unlike anything we've ever seen. Maria leaned over the table, studying the sketches. You think these inscriptions could tell us more about the Echo's purpose? Why it was hidden away? Isaac nodded. It's possible. The deeper we dig, the more it seems like Earth was never just our home. It might have been something else, something far more significant in the cosmic order. The Echo and these blueprints suggest that Earth has been a focal point in the universe for a long time, maybe even a battleground for alien civilizations. Lia frowned, trying to piece together the implications. A battleground? For what? Why would aliens be fighting over Earth? Isaac glanced at her, then back to the notebook. That's what we need to find out. These texts could hold the key. If Earth was once a battleground, it means our planet might have witnessed conflicts far beyond human history. Conflicts that could explain why the Echo was hidden so deep beneath the surface. Maria's gaze moved from the notebook to the map of the dig site. How deep was the Echo when you found it? Over 10 kilometers, Isaac replied. It was buried in a chamber, surrounded by layers of sediment that date back millions of years. The deeper we went, the stranger the materials became. It's as if the Echo was placed there intentionally, far from the reach of any civilization, hidden but waiting to be found. Maria's mind churned with the implications. So, if it was hidden so deliberately, maybe it wasn't meant for us. Maybe it was meant for someone or something else. Lia crossed her arms, her face grim. And we've just woken it up. If it was hidden to protect something or keep it from falling into the wrong hands, then we might have just set off a chain of events that could have catastrophic consequences. Isaac's eyes flickered with a mix of excitement and fear. That's exactly why we need to decipher these texts, to understand what the Echo is and why it was hidden. If there's even a chance that we've stumbled onto something that was meant to stay buried, we need to know why. Hours passed as the team meticulously combed through Isaac's notes and data files. They cross-referenced ancient Earth languages with the alien symbols, searching for any clues that could reveal the Echo's origins. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, Maria found herself drawn to a particular set of symbols that seemed familiar. Wait, she said, pointing to a series of spirals and lines etched into the stone. I've seen these before. In ancient texts from Sumeria, there were references to spirals as symbols of time and space. What if these aren't just symbols, but a form of proto-language that predates even our earliest civilizations. Isaac leaned in, his interest piqued. You're right. These spirals, they could represent something more than just decorations. They might be a code, a way to communicate something fundamental about the universe, maybe even the power that the Echo wields. Lia's eyes widened with realization. If that's true, then these texts might not just be a record of history, but a guide, a warning about the Echo's true purpose. Maria's heart pounded with excitement and fear. Then we need to decipher this code, find out what these symbols are telling us. If the Echo is as ancient as we think, it could hold knowledge far beyond our understanding, knowledge that could either save us or destroy us. Isaac began to work furiously, cross-referencing the symbols with ancient Earth text and modern algorithms designed to decode unknown languages. The more he delved into the data, the more connections he began to see. It was like piecing together a puzzle from a million scattered fragments, each one revealing a part of a larger, more complex picture. Hours turned into a blur as the team worked tirelessly, their focus unwavering. They knew that the answers they sought could mean the difference between survival and extinction. And then, as the first light of dawn began to creep into the room, Isaac found something. I think I've got it, he said, his voice barely a whisper. These symbols, they're not just a language. They're a map of the cosmos. And these lines here, they mark places of significance, places where battles were fought and won, where entire civilizations rose and fell. Maria felt a chill run down her spine. A map of the cosmos, and Earth is one of those places. Isaac nodded, his eyes wide with revelation. Yes, Earth is marked as a nexus point, a place of convergence for different civilizations. And these other symbols, they seem to represent different alien races, each one vying for control over this nexus point. Lia's face was pale. So, Earth was a battleground, just like you said. But why? Why would so many alien civilizations fight over our planet? Isaac shook his head, still trying to process the enormity of what he was uncovering. I don't know, but there's more. These symbols here, they represent the Echo. It was designed as a weapon, a tool to end conflicts, to bring balance. But there's something else, something that suggests it was also a key. Maria's heart raced. A key to what? Isaac's voice trembled as he spoke. A key to unlocking the universe itself. The Echo wasn't just meant to be a weapon. It was meant to be a gateway, a way to access the very fabric of reality. Whoever controlled the Echo could control the fate of entire star systems, maybe even galaxies. Lia took a step back, her face filled with a mix of awe and horror. And now we have it. We have the power to reshape the universe, or destroy it. Maria felt a deep sense of unease settle in her stomach. They had unearthed something far beyond their understanding, something that could change the course of history forever. And now, with the Drakkon threat looming, they had to decide how to use it. Isaac's voice broke through her thoughts, filled with urgency. We need to be careful, Maria. The Echo's power is immense, but it's also dangerous. If we use it without understanding the consequences, we could unleash something far worse than the Drakkon. Maria nodded, her mind racing with the weight of the decision before them. They had a choice to make, a choice that would determine the fate of not just their world, but potentially all worlds. She knew they couldn't afford to make the wrong one. We need more information, she said finally. We need to understand the full scope of the Echo's power and what it means for us. If Earth was a battleground before, it might become one again. We need to be ready for whatever comes next. Isaac and Lia nodded in agreement, their expressions grim. They had a lot of work to do, and not much time to do it. But they were determined to see it through, no matter the cost. As they prepared to delve deeper into the mysteries of the Echo and its origins, Maria couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something monumental, something that would change everything they thought they knew about the universe and their place in it. And as the first rays of sunlight streamed into the room, illuminating the ancient texts and symbols, she knew one thing for certain. The Echo was far more than just a weapon. It was a key to unlocking the secrets of the cosmos, a key that could either save them or doom them all. The air inside the underground facility was tense. Maria paced back and forth, her mind racing with the new information they had just uncovered about the Echo. The weight of their decision hung over her like a storm cloud. Isaac and Lia sat at the table, their eyes scanning over the decoded alien symbols, trying to make sense of what they had just learned. The Echo's immense power was more than they had ever anticipated. It could be their salvation or their doom. Their thoughts were interrupted by the crackling of the comm system. "Dr. Vance, Captain Morales," came the voice of Sergeant Ethan Hayes, who was manning the external perimeter. "You need to come to the surface immediately. We have a visitor." Maria shot a glance at Isaac, her eyes narrowing. "A visitor? In the middle of a war?" Isaac nodded grimly. "Only one way to find out what's going on. Let's go." Together, they made their way through the labyrinthine corridors of the facility, the walls still echoing with the hum of the Echo. As they emerged into the cool night air, they saw Sergeant Hayes standing with a group of soldiers, all of them staring intently at a figure standing just beyond the perimeter. The figure was tall and clad in an otherworldly suit that shimmered in the dim light. Its face was hidden beneath a helmet that seemed to distort the light around it, giving it an almost ghostly appearance. As Maria and Isaac approached, the figure raised a hand in what seemed to be a gesture of peace. "I come in peace," the figure said in a voice that was smooth and calm, but with an underlying authority that demanded attention. "My name is Errol Thorne. I am an envoy of the Zathari. We need to talk." Maria's heart skipped a beat. The Zathari were known throughout the galaxy as a mysterious and reclusive race with an unparalleled mastery over time manipulation. Their motives were often inscrutable, and their presence here now could mean any number of things, none of them necessarily good. "What do you want with us?" Maria demanded, her hand instinctively resting on the sidearm at her belt. Errol Thorne's helmet retracted, revealing a face that was almost human, but with eyes that glowed with an ethereal blue light. "We know of the Echo," he said simply, "and we know what it is capable of. We have seen many timelines where its power has been unleashed, with consequences you cannot begin to fathom. We are here to offer our knowledge, to help you use it wisely." Maria exchanged a look with Isaac. "And why would you help us?" Isaac asked, suspicion evident in his voice. "What's in it for you?" Errol Thorne smiled faintly. "Our reasons are our own, but know this. The Drakkon are not the only threat you face. The Echo's activation has sent ripples through time itself, attracting the attention of forces far more dangerous than the Drakkon. If you misuse the Echo, it could mean the end of all things." Maria felt a shiver run down her spine. The weight of Errol's words settled heavily on her. "We're not fools, Thorne. We know the Echo is dangerous. But why should we trust you? How do we know this isn't some kind of trap?" Errol's eyes seemed to pierce through her. "Trust is a luxury you cannot afford right now. You don't have to trust me, but consider this. The Zathari have no interest in your destruction. We seek only to preserve the balance of time and space. If the Echo is misused, it could tear apart the very fabric of reality. We offer our knowledge because it is in all our interests to prevent such an outcome." Isaac stepped forward, his gaze fixed on Errol. "What do you want from us in exchange for your help?" Errol's smile faded. "There is a component that is missing from the Echo, a stabilizer that will allow it to be used without risking a catastrophic overload. The Drakkon have this component. We want you to retrieve it. In return, we will help you understand the true nature of the Echo and how to wield it without destroying yourselves." Maria clenched her jaw. A mission into a Drakkon outpost was a dangerous proposition, but without the stabilizer, the Echo was too volatile to use safely. "And if we refuse?" Errol's gaze didn't waver. "Then you will be on your own, and the chances of your survival and that of your world will diminish significantly." Maria took a deep breath, weighing her options. She didn't trust Errol or the Zathari, but she also knew that they needed all the help they could get. "Fine," she said finally. "We'll get you your stabilizer. But understand this, if you betray us, we won't hesitate to fight back." Errol inclined his head. Understood. I will provide you with the coordinates of the Drakkon outpost and all the information you need to complete the mission. Good luck, Captain Morales. You're going to need it. With that, Errol Thorne turned and disappeared into the darkness, leaving Maria, Isaac, and their team to prepare for what was to come. Back inside the facility, Maria gathered the team for a briefing. The tension in the room was palpable as she laid out the details of the mission. We need to retrieve a component from a Drakkon outpost. It's heavily fortified, but we have a plan to get in and out quickly. This mission is crucial. Without that stabilizer, the Echo is too dangerous to use, and we can't afford that risk. Isaac nodded, his face set with determination. We'll take a small team, in and out before they know we're there. It's risky, but it's our only option. Lia looked around the room, her expression troubled. I still don't like this. We're trusting an alien we just met to lead us into a Drakkon stronghold. What if this is a trap? Maria met her gaze evenly. I don't like it either, but we don't have a choice. We need that stabilizer, and we need to know more about the Echo. This is our best shot. Sergeant Hayes stepped forward, his voice steady. I'll go with you. I've faced the Drakkon before, and I know how they operate. We can do this, Captain. Maria nodded. All right. We leave at first light. Get some rest, everyone. It's going to be a long day tomorrow. The following morning, Maria, Isaac, Sergeant Hayes, and a small team of elite soldiers set out for the Drakkon outpost. The journey was tense, each member of the team on high alert for any signs of an ambush. As they approached the outpost, they could see the faint outlines of the Drakkon defenses, heavily armed and ready for a fight. Maria led the team through the dense underbrush, moving silently toward the outpost perimeter. They had to be quick and quiet if they were going to have any chance of success. Isaac held up a hand, signaling for the team to stop. We're close, he whispered. The component should be in the central command building. We go in fast, grab it, and get out. Understood? The team nodded, their faces grim with determination. Maria took a deep breath, then gave the signal. They moved as one, slipping through the shadows toward the command building. They reached the building without incident, but as they prepared to breach the entrance, a sudden explosion rocked the ground beneath them. Maria's heart leaped into her throat as she saw a group of Drakkon soldiers emerging from the shadows, weapons raised. It's a trap, she shouted, diving for cover as gunfire erupted around them. Chaos erupted as the team returned fire, bullets and energy blasts lighting up the darkened landscape. Maria's mind raced as she tried to make sense of what was happening. How had the Drakkon known they were coming? As the firefight intensified, she caught sight of a figure moving through the chaos, one of their own, moving with a purpose that seemed out of place in the midst of the battle. Maria's eyes widened as she recognized the figure. It was Corporal Jenna Lee, a member of their team. Jenna, Maria shouted, but the words were lost in the din of battle. She watched in shock as Jenna reached the command building and opened a hidden panel, revealing a communication device. She's signaling the Drakkon, Isaac shouted, his voice filled with disbelief. Maria's blood ran cold. They had a spy in their ranks, a traitor who had betrayed them to the Drakkon. She felt a surge of anger and betrayal course through her veins, but there was no time to dwell on it. They had to get out of there, now. Fall back, Maria shouted. We need to regroup. The team began to retreat, but as they did, a Drakkon soldier fired a shot that struck Sergeant Hayes in the chest. He staggered, his face contorted with pain, before collapsing to the ground. No, Maria screamed, rushing to his side. She could see the life fading from his eyes, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Go, go, Hayes whispered, his voice barely audible. Get out of here. Maria felt tears sting her eyes as she nodded, her heart breaking. She squeezed his hand, then turned to Isaac. We need to move, now. Isaac nodded, helping Maria to her feet as they began to fall back, firing at the Drakkon as they retreated. The battle was fierce, but they managed to reach the safety of the trees, disappearing into the shadows as the Drakkon continued to fire. They moved quickly, putting as much distance between themselves and the outpost as possible. When they finally stopped to catch their breath, Maria's mind was racing with questions. How had Jenna betrayed them? Why? Isaac shook his head, his expression grim. I don't know, but we need to find out. We've got a traitor in our midst, and we can't let this happen again. Maria nodded, her jaw clenched with determination. We need to regroup, figure out who we can trust, and plan our next move. This isn't over, not by a long shot. As they made their way back to the facility, Maria felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had been betrayed, but they were not broken. They would find the truth, and they would fight back with everything they had. The Drakkon might have won this battle, but the war was far from over. The facility's once comforting walls now felt like a cage. Maria paced through the corridors, her footsteps echoing with a sense of finality. The loss of Sergeant Hayes and the betrayal of Corporal Jenna Lee had left the crew shattered and uncertain. The mission to retrieve the stabilizer had turned into a grim reminder of how dangerous their situation had become. In the main briefing room, Isaac and Lia were going over the mission's data, but the tension was palpable. Lia's face was drawn, her usual composure replaced by a tight-lipped silence. Isaac, for his part, was absorbed in the data, though his eyes occasionally flickered toward Lia with concern. Maria stopped at the door of the briefing room and hesitated. She had heard rumors, whispers about Lia that she couldn't ignore any longer. The revelations from the failed mission had left her with more questions than answers, and she knew she needed to confront the truth. Lia, Maria said as she entered the room, we need to talk, now. Lia looked up, her expression unreadable. What is it, Captain? Maria's gaze was intense, unyielding. I've been hearing things. There are rumors that you had contact with the Drakkon, that you might have been involved in the betrayal. Lia's eyes narrowed, and she stood up, her face flushed with a mix of anger and hurt. That's a serious accusation. Maria, do you have any proof? Maria's jaw tightened. It's not just rumors. I saw Jenna signaling the Drakkon, and I've been told you were seen leaving the perimeter shortly before the ambush. Lia's face fell. She took a deep breath, and her shoulders sagged. All right, if you want the truth, here it is. I was working with the Drakkon, but not in the way you think. Maria's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? How could you betray us? It wasn't about betraying you, Lia said, her voice shaking. I was trying to protect you, to protect all of us. The Drakkon offered me a way to keep everyone safe. I didn't take their offer lightly, but I had my reasons. Maria's eyes were filled with disbelief. You think you can justify this? Hayes is dead because of you. Jenna is a traitor because of you. Lia's expression was filled with remorse. I didn't want this. I was trying to find a way to end this war, to make sure we survived. I was forced into a corner. I couldn't see any other way out. Before Maria could respond, Isaac stepped in, his face pale and troubled. Maria, I think we need to hear her out. There's more to this than just a betrayal. We need to understand what's really going on. Maria turned to Isaac, her frustration evident. I don't know if I can trust her anymore. Not after what happened. Isaac nodded slowly. We have to try. If there's a chance Lia can help us, we need to explore it. We're all on edge right now, but we can't afford to tear each other apart. Lia looked between them, her eyes pleading. Please, let me explain. There's something you need to know about why I made the choices I did. The room fell into a heavy silence as Maria and Isaac waited for Lia to continue. Lia took a deep breath, her fingers trembling as she recounted her story. When the Drakkon first approached me, Lia began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. They offered me information about the Echo, but only if I agreed to help them. At the time, I was desperate. I saw an opportunity to learn more about the Echo and potentially find a way to neutralize its power before it could be misused. But I didn't realize what I was getting into. Maria's expression softened slightly. And what happened after that? I tried to keep the Drakkon at bay, To limit their influence, Lia said. But as time went on, I discovered that they had their own plans. They wanted the Echo for their own purposes, and they weren't interested in peace. I was caught in a web of deceit, trying to play both sides. Maria felt a pang of sympathy, but it was overshadowed by her anger. So, what's your plan now? How do we deal with the Drakkon after all this? I've been working on a way to counter their strategy, Lia said. I have information that can help us predict their next moves, but we need to act quickly. They're planning an ambush, and they know our weaknesses. They'll strike soon if we don't get ahead of them. Isaac's eyes were full of concern. We need to prepare for this ambush. If Lia has information that can help us, we should use it. But we also need to stay on guard. We can't let our trust in her blind us to the possibility of further betrayal. As Maria and Isaac left the briefing room to prepare for the imminent threat, Maria's mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. She had trusted Lia, and the betrayal had cut deep. But she couldn't deny that Lia's knowledge might be crucial in surviving the coming battle. In a secluded part of the facility, Maria found Dr. Vance, who was engrossed in a set of old documents. The sight of him brought back a flood of memories of the early days of the mission, when they had worked together with a shared sense of purpose and trust. Maria approached him, her face showing the strain of recent events. Dr. Vance, I need to talk to you. It's about Lia and the mission. Dr. Vance looked up, concern evident in his eyes. What's going on, Maria? Maria took a seat across from him, her hands clasped tightly together. Lia has admitted to working with the Drakkon. She says she was trying to protect us, but I don't know if I can believe her. Dr. Vance's eyes narrowed. And what do you plan to do? I don't know yet, Maria admitted. But we're facing an ambush, and we need to be prepared. I can't afford to let personal feelings cloud my judgment. Dr. Vance nodded, his expression thoughtful. We've all made mistakes, Maria, but we also have to remember why we're here. We're fighting for our survival, and that means putting aside personal grievances for the greater good. As Maria looked at Dr. Vance, she saw a flicker of something more, a deep bond formed through shared struggles and unspoken feelings. She remembered their moments of quiet understanding, the support they had offered each other during the darkest times. There had been a moment, just before the Echo was discovered, when they had shared a tender look, one filled with an unspoken connection and the weight of their shared guilt. They had both felt it, a silent acknowledgement of their fears and hopes. The memory of that moment was interrupted by a sudden alarm. The facility's lights flickered, and an urgent voice came over the comm system. All personnel, prepare for immediate evacuation. Drakkon forces have breached our perimeter. Repeat, Drakkon forces have breached our perimeter. Maria's heart raced as she and Dr. Vance rushed to the command center. The facility was in chaos, with personnel scrambling to secure their positions and prepare for the impending attack. Isaac and Lia were already at the command center, working furiously to coordinate the defense. Lia's face was pale, but her eyes were focused. She was directing the remaining crew, her earlier betrayal forgotten in the face of the immediate threat. Maria, we need to deploy our defensive systems, Lia said, her voice steady despite the tension. The Drakkon will be upon us any minute. Maria nodded, taking a deep breath. Let's get to it. We can't afford to let them overrun us. As they worked to fortify the facility, Maria couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something devastating. The betrayal and the ambush had tested their resolve, but they had to push through. The stakes were too high, and the cost of failure was unimaginable. Drakkon forces soon began to assault the facility, their advanced weaponry cutting through the defenses. Maria and her team fought back fiercely, their training and determination evident in every action. But the Drakkon were relentless, and the battle raged on with no end in sight. In the midst of the chaos, Maria found herself face to face with one of the Drakkon commanders. The commander's eyes were cold and calculating, a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding them. "You think you can win this battle?" the commander taunted, his voice echoing through the din of the fight. "You're outnumbered and outmatched. Your attempts to thwart us will be in vain." Maria's eyes blazed with defiance. "We won't give up. Not now, not ever." The battle continued, each side pushing to gain the upper hand. Maria's resolve was unshakable, even as her heart ached with the weight of their losses and the burden of the decisions she had to make. As the battle reached its climax, Maria realized that their survival hinged on their ability to trust each other and work together. The fractures within their team were deep, but they needed to heal those wounds if they were to stand a chance against the Drakkon and any other threats that lay ahead. With each passing moment, Maria fought to maintain her focus, driven by the hope that their sacrifices would not be in vain and that they would emerge victorious, no matter the cost. The facility's defenses had been pushed to their limits. The Drakkon onslaught was relentless, their forces overwhelming Earth's last bastions of resistance. The once secure underground base had turned into a battleground, the air filled with the acrid smell of smoke and the sharp sounds of gunfire. Maria and her team fought with every ounce of strength they had, but it was clear that the Drakkon were determined to break through. In the midst of the chaos, Maria spotted Dr. Vance working furiously at a control panel. His face was grim, sweat streaming down his forehead as he manipulated the controls. "We're running out of time, Maria," he shouted over the din. "The Drakkon are closing in, and we need to deploy the Echo now if we're going to have any chance of holding them off." Maria nodded, her heart pounding. "Is it ready? Can it be used safely?" Dr. Vance's eyes were filled with a mix of determination and fear. "It's ready, but we don't fully understand its effects. We've only scratched the surface of its power. If we use it, we need to be prepared for anything." Maria glanced over at Isaac, who was coordinating the defense from a makeshift command center. His face was set with resolve, but there was a flicker of anxiety in his eyes. "Isaac, are we ready to deploy the Echo?" Maria asked. Isaac gave a terse nod. "We're as ready as we're going to be. The Drakkon are almost on top of us. We need to make this count." With a deep breath, Maria and Dr. Vance made their way to the chamber housing the Ethereal Echo. The chamber was a stark contrast to the chaos outside, a place of eerie stillness where the Echo's power pulsed with a low, resonant hum. As they entered, Maria could feel the weight of the weapon's potential pressing down on her. Dr. Vance worked quickly, inputting the final commands into the control panel. "Prepare for the activation sequence," he instructed. "This is going to be intense." Maria took her position, her eyes fixed on the Echo as it began to power up. The room was bathed in a blinding light, and Maria felt a shiver run down her spine. The air seemed to crackle with energy, and the very fabric of reality felt as though it was vibrating in response to the weapon's activation. As the Echo's power reached its peak, Maria and her team braced themselves. The weapon's energy was channeled through a massive conduit, and with a sudden surge, it unleashed a devastating blast. The impact was immediate and overwhelming. The Drakkon forces, already advancing on the facility, were caught in the weapon's shockwave, their ranks disintegrating in a blinding explosion of light and energy. For a moment, it seemed as though the tide of battle had turned in their favor. But as the dust began to settle, it became clear that the Echo's power had not only decimated the Drakkon forces, but had also caused a profound disturbance in the very fabric of reality. The air was filled with a low, pulsing hum, and the boundaries between past, present, and future began to blur. Maria's head spun as she tried to make sense of the situation. The facility's surroundings seemed to ripple and distort, and she felt as though she were moving through a haze of disjointed memories and fragmented realities. The chaos outside the facility was echoed within, creating a nightmarish landscape where nothing seemed to make sense. "Dr. Vance," Maria called out, her voice strained as she fought to keep her footing. "What's happening? Why is everything shifting like this?" Dr. Vance looked equally disoriented, his face pale as he tried to make sense of the readings on his instruments. "It's the Echo," he said, his voice trembling. "Its power must have created a temporal paradox. It's disrupting the flow of time, causing reality to fracture." Before Maria could respond, a sudden explosion rocked the chamber. The force of the blast sent her sprawling to the floor, and she looked up to see Dr. Vance lying motionless, a gash on his forehead. Her heart skipped a beat as she rushed to his side, her hands shaking as she checked for a pulse. "Dr. Vance," Maria cried out, her voice cracking with desperation. "Hang on, we need help." Dr. Vance's eyes fluttered open, and he looked at Maria with a mixture of pain and resignation. "Maria, the Echo, it's not just a weapon. It's a key to controlling all of time. It was meant to reshape reality." His voice trailed off, and Maria could see that his injuries were too severe. With a final, strained gasp, Dr. Vance's eyes closed, and he fell still. Maria's heart ached with grief as she realized that they had lost one of their most vital allies. As Maria knelt beside Dr. Vance, she noticed a small, metallic object lying near his hand. It was a pendant, intricately designed and bearing an unfamiliar symbol. Maria picked it up, her fingers trembling as she examined it. The pendant seemed to pulse with a faint, otherworldly energy. Isaac's voice cut through the chaos as he arrived at the chamber, his face lined with concern. "Maria, are you all right? What's happening?" Maria looked up, her eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and determination. "Dr. Vance is dead. He left us a clue, this pendant. It seems to be connected to the Echo. We need to figure out what it means." Isaac nodded, his expression grim. "We'll analyze it later. Right now, we need to focus on the immediate threat. The Drakkon are regrouping, and we're vulnerable. We have to reinforce our defenses and figure out how to stabilize the situation." As Maria and Isaac worked to coordinate the defense and stabilize the facility, the distortions in reality continued to intensify. The facility was a place of shifting shadows and fragmented visions, where the past and future seemed to bleed into the present. The disruption was taking a toll on everyone's mental state, adding to the already overwhelming stress of the battle. Amidst the turmoil, Errol Thorne's voice came over the comm system. "Maria Morales, you need to understand the full implications of the Echo. It is not merely a weapon. It is a device of immense power, capable of manipulating the very essence of time itself." Maria's mind raced as she tried to grasp the significance of Errol's message. "What are you saying? Why did you bring this to Earth?" Errol's voice was calm, almost detached. "The Zethari believe that the Echo is the key to controlling all of time. It was created long ago by a forgotten civilization, one that sought to master the flow of time and reshape reality according to their will. The Drakkon have sought to claim it for their own purposes, but they cannot be allowed to succeed." Maria's heart pounded as she processed Errol's words. The Echo was more than they had ever imagined, a force that could alter the course of history itself. But with its immense power came great risk, and they had to navigate the perilous landscape of temporal instability to ensure it didn't fall into the wrong hands. As the battle continued, Maria knew that their struggle was far from over. The loss of Dr. Vance, the betrayal, and the chaos wrought by the Echo had left them reeling, but they had to find a way to stabilize the situation and confront the Drakkon's relentless assault. The cost of their victory would be high, but they had no choice but to fight on. Maria clutched the pendant tightly, her mind focused on the task at hand. The road ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but she knew that they had to press forward. The Echo's true purpose was still shrouded in mystery, and the stakes had never been higher. The battle outside raged on, and the facility's defenses were pushed to their limit. Maria and her team fought with unwavering determination, their resolve tested by the shifting reality and the ever-present threat of the Drakkon. In the midst of the chaos, Maria found herself facing a new challenge: how to navigate the fractured reality and use the Echo's power to their advantage without succumbing to its potentially devastating effects. The path ahead was uncertain, but Maria was determined to uncover the truth and protect what remained of their world. The relentless Drakkon assault continued, their forces pressing harder against Earth's defenses. Inside the facility, Maria and her team struggled to maintain control amidst the crumbling reality. The distortions had reached a fever pitch, and every action seemed to ripple through time and space, compounding the chaos. The pendant Maria had found was now a focal point of their efforts. Isaac and Lia, despite their strained relationship, worked together to analyze it, hoping it held the key to understanding the echo's true purpose. Lia examined the pendant under a high-powered magnifier, her hands steady despite the surrounding chaos. This symbol, it matches the inscriptions we found in the ancient texts. It's a key, or at least it's meant to interface with something more powerful. Isaac leaned in, his brow furrowed. If this pendant is connected to the echo, it could help us stabilize the weapon, or at least understand its effects better. Maria watched them work, her thoughts drifting back to Dr. Vance's dying words. The notion that the echo was a key to controlling all of time weighed heavily on her. She understood the urgency of the situation, but was also acutely aware of the potential consequences of mishandling such a powerful artifact. In the midst of their work, the facility's comm system crackled with static before Errol Thorne's voice came through. "Maria Morales, you are running out of time. The Drakkon are close to achieving their goal. The Echo is not just a weapon. It is a force of creation and destruction. You must act now to ensure it does not fall into the wrong hands." Maria's heart raced as she absorbed Errol's message. "What exactly are we supposed to do, Errol? We need more than just cryptic warnings." Errol's response was measured and deliberate. "The Echo's power is linked to an ancient mechanism, a control system hidden within its core. The pendant you possess is a part of this mechanism. You must activate it to stabilize the temporal distortions and prevent further damage." Maria turned to Isaac and Lia. "We need to find this control system and activate it. If Errol is right, this could be our only chance to stabilize the situation and prevent the Drakkon from seizing the Echo." The team set out to locate the control system, guided by the clues provided by Errol and the inscriptions on the pendant. The facility's corridors were now a labyrinth of shifting walls and blurring timelines, making navigation a challenge. Maria led the way, her determination unwavering. The weight of their mission, combined with the loss of Dr. Vance, fueled her resolve. She knew that their actions in the coming moments could determine the fate of Earth and its allies. As they moved deeper into the facility, they encountered more temporal distortions. The past and future seemed to converge, creating eerie glimpses of events yet to come and memories long forgotten. Each step felt like a journey through a fractured reality, where time itself was an unstable force. Finally, they reached a chamber that matched the descriptions from the ancient texts. The room was filled with ancient machinery, its design unlike anything they had seen before. In the center of the room was a pedestal, and on it, a slot that seemed to be designed for the pendant. Maria approached the pedestal, her hands trembling as she inserted the pendant into the slot. The room was bathed in a brilliant light, and the machinery began to hum with a low, resonant sound. The temporal distortions in the facility began to stabilize, the shifting reality slowly coming into focus. The machinery's activation triggered a sequence of holographic displays, revealing the Echo's true purpose. The displays showed ancient civilizations manipulating time, their technology designed to reshape reality according to their will. The Echo was not merely a weapon, it was a tool of immense power, capable of altering the very fabric of existence. As the displays flickered and shifted, Maria saw a vision of the future, a future where the Drakkon had succeeded in their conquest, their rule extending across galaxies. The vision was a stark reminder of the stakes involved, and Maria knew that they had to prevent this future from becoming a reality. Isaac and Lia worked to decipher the information displayed by the machinery, their efforts crucial in understanding how to control the Echo's power. The room was filled with tension, each moment bringing them closer to a decision that could alter the course of history. "We need to recalibrate the Echo's power," Isaac said, his voice tense. "If we can channel its energy in a controlled manner, we might be able to use it against the Drakkon without causing further damage." Lia nodded in agreement. "We have to be precise. Any miscalculation could exacerbate the temporal distortions or make the situation worse." As they worked on recalibrating the Echo, Maria's thoughts turned to Dr. Vance. His death had left a void, But his final words had provided a crucial insight into the Echo's true nature. The weapon was more than just a tool of destruction. It was a key to understanding and controlling time itself. The recalibration was a tense process, with every adjustment made under the pressure of the ongoing battle. The facility's defenses were holding, but the Drakkon forces were relentless, their assault showing no signs of letting up. Finally, the machinery emitted a final burst of energy, and the temporal distortions began to stabilize. The room was filled with a sense of calm as the chaotic distortions subsided, the facility's reality returning to a more stable state. Maria looked at Isaac and Lia, a mixture of relief and exhaustion on her face. "We've stabilized the Echo, but the battle is far from over. We need to use this moment to regroup and prepare for the final push." Isaac nodded, his expression resolute. "We've made progress, but we have to remain vigilant. The Drakkon won't give up easily." As the team prepared for the final assault against the Drakkon, Maria's thoughts were focused on the future. The Echo had revealed its true nature, and they had a crucial role to play in shaping the outcome of the conflict. With the knowledge they had gained and the determination to see their mission through, Maria and her team were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The turning point had come, and they were prepared to confront the consequences of their actions and fight for the future of their world. The battle continued to rage outside, but within the facility, a fragile hope began to take shape. The Echo's power had been harnessed, and the team was ready to face the Drakkon and secure their world's survival. The outcome of the conflict would depend on their ability to use the Echo wisely and confront the challenges that lay ahead. The facility's atmosphere was filled with an unsettling silence as the team grappled with the aftermath of the Echo's activation. Maria and her crew were on high alert, their senses heightened as they prepared for the next phase of their mission. However, the calm was deceptive. The very fabric of reality seemed to shudder, and a blinding flash of light engulfed them. When the light faded, Maria found herself in a place that was both familiar and alien. The facility was still intact, but everything else had changed. The walls were scorched, the equipment in disarray, and the once vibrant control panels were now flickering with distorted lights. The facility was eerily quiet, and the usual hum of activity was replaced by an oppressive stillness. Maria looked around, confusion and dread settling in her chest. "Where are we?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Isaac and Lia were by her side, their expressions mirroring her bewilderment. "This doesn't look like our facility," Isaac said, his eyes scanning the surroundings. "Something has gone terribly wrong." As they ventured deeper into the facility, they encountered signs of a brutal conflict. The walls were scarred with blast marks, and remnants of alien technology lay scattered across the floor. The team moved cautiously, their weapons at the ready, but the silence was only broken by the occasional echo of their footsteps. Then they came across a disturbing sight, an alternate version of themselves. These versions were visibly disheveled, their expressions hardened by despair and anger. They were not alone. They were accompanied by a group of ragged survivors, their faces etched with the weariness of a prolonged war. "Who are these people?" Leo asked, her voice tinged with fear. "And why do they look like us?" One of the alternate versions of Maria, a woman with a haunted expression, stepped forward. "You're not supposed to be here," she said, her voice filled with a mix of sadness and bitterness. "You're from another reality. This world is lost. The Drakkon have already conquered Earth." The words hit Maria like a punch to the gut. Conquered? But how? The alternate Maria's eyes were full of sorrow. The Echo's power was misused. It created a temporal rift, and in our reality, the Drakkon seized control before we could stop them. We're left fighting a losing battle, trying to salvage what little remains. Maria's heart ached as she looked at her alternate self. The weight of their failure was palpable, and the reality of their situation began to sink in. They were not only facing the immediate threat of the Drakkon, but also grappling with the consequences of their actions in this parallel reality. As the team continued to explore this grim new world, they encountered more alternate versions of themselves. Some were filled with rage, having turned to extreme measures in their fight against the Drakkon. Others were resigned, having lost hope and accepted their fate. Each encounter served as a stark reminder of the potential consequences of their choices. In the midst of their exploration, a mysterious figure emerged from the shadows. The figure was cloaked in ancient robes, their face obscured by a hood. The air around them crackled with an ethereal energy, and their presence seemed to resonate with an otherworldly authority. "I am an ancient guardian of the Ethereal Echo," the figure said, their voice a deep, resonant tone. "You have ventured into a reality shaped by the Echo's power, a reality that stands as a warning of what can happen if its potential is not wielded wisely." Maria and her team approached the figure cautiously, their eyes filled with curiosity and apprehension. "What is this place?" Maria asked. "And why are we here?" The Guardian's gaze was piercing, their eyes glowing with a faint, otherworldly light. "You have witnessed the consequences of the Echo's misuse. This reality is but one of many possible futures, shaped by the choices made by those who wield its power. The Echo is a tool of immense potential, but it is also a force that can unravel the very fabric of existence if not handled with care." The team listened intently as the Guardian continued. "You must decide whether to return to your original timeline or to confront the Drakkon within this reality. Each choice carries its own risks and consequences. The fate of countless worlds may hinge on your decision." Maria's mind raced as she processed the Guardian's words. The weight of their situation was overwhelming. They had the power to shape reality, but the cost of their choices was becoming increasingly clear. As the team pondered their options, the alternate versions of themselves continued to struggle against the Drakkon. The scene was a stark contrast to the world they had known, a grim reflection of what could happen if they failed to act decisively. Maria turned to Isaac and Lia, her expression one of determination. "We need to understand the implications of our choices. If we stay here, we may be able to make a difference, but we also risk further destabilizing reality. If we return to our original timeline, we must find a way to use the Echo's power responsibly." Isaac nodded, his face resolute. "We've seen what happens when the Echo is misused. We need to make sure that doesn't happen in our reality." Lia looked at the alternate versions of themselves with a mixture of sorrow and resolve. "We owe it to ourselves and to the people in this world to make the right choice. We have to use the Echo's power wisely and ensure that history doesn't repeat itself." The Guardian's presence seemed to grow more intense as they spoke. "Remember, the Echo's power is a reflection of the choices made by those who wield it. The fate of your world and countless others depends on how you use it." With a heavy heart, Maria and her team made their decision. They would return to their original timeline and confront the Drakkon with the knowledge and insight they had gained from their journey. The consequences of their choices would be significant, but they were determined to ensure that the Echo's power was used to protect their world and prevent the grim future they had witnessed. As they prepared to leave the parallel reality, Maria took one last look at the alternate versions of herself and the world they inhabited. The weight of their mission was immense, but the lessons learned from their journey would guide them as they returned to their own reality. The team was thrust back into their original timeline, the facility's familiar surroundings coming into view. The battle against the Drakkon was still raging, but they were now armed with a deeper understanding of the Echo's power and the consequences of its misuse. Maria knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but she was resolved to confront them with the wisdom gained from their harrowing journey. The fate of their world depended on their ability to navigate the complexities of time and make the right choices in the face of overwhelming adversity. The turning point had come, and the team was ready to face the consequences of their actions and fight for the future of their world. The echoes of their journey through parallel realities would guide them as they continued their struggle against the Drakkon and sought to safeguard their world from the threats that lay ahead. The transition from the parallel reality back to their original timeline was disorienting. The team found themselves back in the facility, but everything seemed to be eerily unchanged. The temporal distortions had ceased, and the facility was once again bathed in the familiar glow of its control panels and blinking lights. Maria took a deep breath, steadying herself. The weight of their recent experiences was heavy, but they had to focus on their immediate task. The knowledge gained from their journey through the parallel reality was crucial, and they needed to act on it quickly. "Everyone okay?" Maria asked, her voice firm despite the lingering tremor in her chest. Isaac and Lia nodded, their expressions a mix of determination and fatigue. "We're back," Isaac said, his voice resolute. "But we need to make sure we use what we've learned to our advantage." Lia's gaze was fixed on the control room's display, her mind racing as she processed the information they had obtained. The parallel reality showed us the devastating consequences of misusing the Echo. "We need to ensure that doesn't happen here." Maria agreed. "We have the chance to make a difference. We need to prepare for the final battle and use the Echo's power wisely." As they prepared for the final assault against the Drakkon, the team gathered in the command center, their faces set with determination. They had seen the potential futures of their actions and understood the gravity of their choices. The knowledge from the parallel reality had given them a deeper perspective on the stakes involved. Isaac reviewed the data on the control panels, his eyes scanning for any anomalies. "We need to calibrate the Echo to channel its power effectively. If we can control its output, we can use it to push back the Drakkon and protect Earth." Lia was already at work on the recalibration process, her hands moving deftly over the control panels. "We've seen what happens when the Echo's power is mishandled. We have to be precise to avoid causing further damage." The team worked in tense silence, their focus unwavering. Every adjustment they made was guided by the lessons learned from their journey through the parallel reality. The facility was filled with the hum of machinery and the occasional burst of static from the comm system as they coordinated their efforts. Outside the facility, the battle with the Drakkon was intensifying. The alien forces had pushed Earth's defenses to the brink, their relentless assault showing no signs of abating. The fate of the world hung in the balance, and the team knew that their actions would determine the outcome. Maria watched the live feeds of the battle, her heart pounding with each passing moment. The Drakkon were closing in, their forces overwhelming Earth's last defenses. The team's preparation had to be swift and effective if they were to turn the tide. "Is the recalibration complete?" Maria asked, her voice filled with urgency. "Almost," Lia replied, her face tense with concentration. "We need to ensure the power levels are stable and that we can control the Echo's output." Isaac joined them, his expression determined. "We're running out of time. We need to get the Echo operational and deploy it against the Drakkon." With a final adjustment, the recalibration process was complete. The control panels hummed with a steady rhythm, and the facility's lights flared with renewed energy. The team was ready to deploy the Echo and confront the Drakkon. As they prepared for the final assault, Maria took a moment to reflect on their journey. The experiences they had endured and the knowledge they had gained were crucial to their success. The echoes of their journey through parallel realities had given them a unique perspective on the power they wielded and the consequences of their choices. "We've come a long way," Maria said, her voice filled with resolve. "We've seen the potential consequences of our actions and learned from our mistakes. Now we have to use that knowledge to protect our world." Isaac and Lia nodded in agreement, their faces set with determination. The time had come to put their plan into action and confront the Drakkon with the power of the Echo. The team moved to the facility's main control room, where the Echo was poised for deployment. The screens displayed live feeds of the ongoing battle, the Drakkon forces pushing closer to Earth's defenses. The situation was dire, but the team was ready to act. Maria gave the order, and the Echo's power was unleashed. The facility's machinery roared to life as the Echo's energy was channeled towards the battlefield. A brilliant beam of light surged from the facility, cutting through the Drakkon forces with overwhelming force. The effect was immediate. The Drakkon forces faltered, their advance halted by the sheer power of the Echo. The beam continued to sweep across the battlefield, pushing back the alien invaders and giving Earth's defenders a much-needed respite. As the battle raged on, the team monitored the Echo's output, making adjustments as needed to maintain control over its power. The tide of the battle began to shift, and the Drakkon forces were driven back. Maria watched with a mixture of relief and determination as the Echo's power turned the tide of the conflict. The sacrifices they had made and the lessons they had learned were paying off, and the future of their world was being shaped by their actions. As the battle drew to a close, the team gathered in the command center, their faces weary but triumphant. The Drakkon forces had been repelled, and Earth's defenses had held. Maria looked at Isaac and Lia, a sense of pride and relief washing over her. "We did it. We used the Echo's power wisely and protected our world." Isaac nodded, his expression one of satisfaction. "We faced incredible challenges, but we made the right choices. The Echo's power has been harnessed to defend our world." Lia's gaze was focused on the screens, which now showed the aftermath of the battle. "We still have a long way to go, but we've made a significant impact. The Drakkon have been pushed back, and we have the chance to rebuild." As the team began to assess the damage and plan for the future, Maria knew that their journey was far from over. The lessons they had learned and the sacrifices they had made would guide them as they worked to ensure the safety and security of their world. The turning point had come, and the team had emerged victorious. The echoes of their journey through parallel realities had shaped their understanding and provided them with the insight needed to confront the Drakkon and safeguard their world. The future was uncertain, but they were ready to face the challenges ahead with the knowledge and resolve gained from their experiences. The aftermath of the battle was quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos that had consumed the facility and the battlefield only hours before. The Drakkon forces had been driven back, but the cost of the conflict was evident. The facility was heavily damaged, its once pristine walls now marred by the scars of battle. The air was thick with the smell of burnt electronics and the faint, lingering traces of ionized plasma. Maria stood amidst the wreckage, her gaze sweeping over the damage. The facility's control room, though functional, was a shadow of its former self. The screens flickered intermittently, and the hum of machinery was interspersed with the occasional crackle of static. Despite the victory, the toll on the team was apparent. Fatigue etched deep lines on their faces, and the weight of their recent experiences hung heavily in the air. Isaac approached Maria, his expression solemn. "We've pushed the Drakkon back, but we can't afford to relax. There's something unsettling about this victory. It feels like it's only the beginning." Maria nodded, her mind racing. "I agree. The Drakkon were relentless, and their withdrawal might be a strategic maneuver. We need to be prepared for whatever comes next." Lia joined them, her face lined with exhaustion. "The facility's systems are still operational, but we've sustained significant damage. We need to assess the extent of the destruction and determine our next steps." As the team began to survey the damage, a sudden, unexpected transmission came through the facility's comm system. The signal was weak, but the message was clear enough to catch their attention. "Attention, Earth's defenders," the transmission began, the voice distorted and crackling with static. "This is an urgent message from an unknown source. Your victory is only temporary. The true threat has yet to reveal itself." Maria exchanged a worried glance with Isaac and Lia. The message's ominous tone was unsettling, and the implication that something more dangerous was lurking unsettled them further. "We need to trace the source of this transmission," Maria said, her voice steady despite the unease she felt. "It might give us insight into what's coming next." Isaac worked quickly, accessing the facility's communication systems to trace the signal. Lia assisted him, her fingers flying over the control panels as they worked to pinpoint the origin of the transmission. The screens displayed a series of encrypted codes and fragmented data. Isaac's brow furrowed in concentration. "The signal is coming from a location within the Drakkon-controlled sector. It's heavily encrypted, but I'm getting a faint reading of the coordinates." Lia glanced at the data. "It's unusual for the Drakkon to use such encrypted communications. This could be a sign of something more complex at play." Maria's mind raced as she considered their options. We need to investigate this transmission. It might provide us with crucial information about the true nature of the threat we're facing. The team prepared for a reconnaissance mission, their gear hastily repaired and their equipment checked for functionality. The journey to the Drakkon-controlled sector was fraught with danger, but they had little choice. The unknown threat hinted at in the transmission needed to be addressed before it could escalate further. As they set out, the landscape around the facility was eerily quiet. The once vibrant world was now scarred by the battle, the remnants of the Drakkon's assault evident in the damaged infrastructure and scorched earth. The team moved cautiously, their senses alert for any signs of danger. The coordinates led them to a remote, heavily fortified Drakkon outpost, hidden within a dense forest of alien flora. The outpost was a sprawling complex of metallic structures and alien technology, its design unlike anything the team had encountered before. The perimeter was heavily guarded, and the presence of advanced energy shields made entry difficult. Maria, Isaac, and Lia approached the outpost under the cover of darkness, using their knowledge of Drakkon technology to avoid detection. They utilized stealth tactics and advanced camouflage, slipping past the guards and bypassing the security systems. Inside the outpost, the team encountered a maze of corridors and chambers filled with unfamiliar technology. The air was thick with the hum of machinery and the occasional burst of alien chatter transmitted through the comm system. As they ventured deeper into the outpost, they discovered a central chamber bathed in a dim, pulsing light. The chamber was dominated by a massive console covered in alien symbols and complex machinery. The source of the transmission was emanating from this chamber, and the team moved with purpose to investigate. The chamber was filled with data terminals and holographic displays, some of which showed cryptic messages and partial schematics. The central console was the focus of their attention, its design both intricate and imposing. Isaac approached the console, his eyes scanning the alien symbols. This is the source of the transmission. If we can access the data, we might uncover more information about the threat. Lia worked alongside Isaac, deciphering the alien symbols and hacking into the console. The process was slow and meticulous, but they made progress. The screens flickered, revealing fragmented data and encrypted files. As they worked, a new transmission came through the console, its message clear despite the encryption. Your efforts are futile. The true enemy is not the Drakkon, but a force far more insidious. The Echo's power is a beacon, drawing the attention of entities beyond your comprehension. Prepare for what is to come. The message sent a shiver down Maria's spine. The implication was that the Drakkon were not the ultimate threat, but rather a precursor to something far more dangerous. Maria turned to her team, her expression grave. We've uncovered a new layer to this conflict. The Drakkon were a distraction, and something far more threatening is on the horizon. Isaac and Lia exchanged worried glances. We need to report this information back to the facility, Isaac said. The true enemy is unknown, but we have to prepare for their arrival. Maria nodded, her mind racing with the implications of the transmission. The battle for Earth was far from over, and the revelation of a new, unseen enemy added a new level of urgency to their mission. As the team made their way back to the facility, the weight of their discovery hung heavily on them. The unknown threat was a daunting prospect, and the need to prepare for it was crucial. Maria knew that the true nature of the threat needed to be understood and addressed. The Drakkon were only the beginning, and the arrival of a more insidious enemy posed a significant challenge. The team's resolve was tested, but their determination to protect Earth and confront the unknown drove them forward. With the data from the outpost in hand and the knowledge of the true threat ahead, the team was ready to face whatever challenges lay in their path. The fight for Earth had entered a new phase, and they were prepared to confront the unseen enemy and safeguard their world from the dangers that loomed on the horizon. Returning to the facility, the team was greeted by a somber silence. The once bustling command center was now a scene of quiet determination, with the remnants of the battle starkly visible in the damaged infrastructure. The sense of urgency was palpable as they processed the newly acquired data and prepared for the looming threat. Maria, Isaac, and Lia gathered in the command room, their faces illuminated by the dim glow of the control panels. The weight of their discovery pressed heavily on their shoulders. The transmission they had intercepted hinted at a malevolent force far beyond the Drakkon, and their next steps needed to be precise. Isaac set up a secure connection to the facility's central database, integrating the data from the Drakkon outpost. "We need to analyze this information thoroughly. The message mentioned entities beyond our comprehension, and we need to understand what that means before we can act." Lia nodded, her eyes scanning the encrypted files. The technology at the outpost was unlike anything we've seen. If these entities are as dangerous as suggested, we need to be ready for anything. Maria's thoughts raced as she reviewed the data. The central console had revealed cryptic schematics and partial logs that hinted at advanced technology and ominous intentions. The message's implication that the Ethereal Echo was a beacon for these unknown entities was troubling. The power of the Echo, while formidable, might have drawn the attention of forces that could eclipse even the Drakkon's threat. "We need to assess the capabilities of these entities," Maria said, her voice steady. "If the Echo has indeed attracted their attention, we must understand their motives and prepare for their arrival." Isaac and Lia worked diligently, deciphering the alien symbols and unraveling the encrypted messages. The data was complex, requiring both technical expertise and a deep understanding of the Drakkon's technology. As they worked, the command center remained focused, the team members exchanging occasional glances of concern and determination. After hours of intense analysis, Isaac finally managed to decrypt a portion of the data. The information revealed a series of coded messages that provided insight into the entity's nature and intentions. The messages spoke of a celestial convergence, a phenomenon that drew powerful entities from beyond known space to realms where the balance of power was disrupted. Lia examined the decoded messages. "It seems these entities are drawn to worlds where powerful technologies like the Ethereal Echo exist. The convergence is a catalyst for their arrival." Maria's mind raced with the implications. If these entities are drawn by the Echo, they could pose an existential threat to Earth. We need to fortify our defenses and prepare for an assault unlike any we've faced before. The team began implementing immediate defensive measures. The facility's systems were fortified, and new energy barriers were erected to provide additional protection. The remaining personnel worked tirelessly, coordinating with the team to enhance the facility's capabilities and ensure readiness for the impending threat. In the midst of their preparations, the facility's sensors detected a surge of anomalous energy signatures. The readings were erratic and unfamiliar, confirming that something was approaching. The team's anxiety heightened as the reality of the threat became more imminent. "Prepare for potential breaches," Maria ordered. "We don't know what form these entities will take, but we need to be ready for anything." The command center became a hive of activity as the team and facility personnel braced themselves for the unknown. The energy barriers hummed with intensity, and the defensive systems were brought online. The tension was palpable, each member of the team focused on their tasks with a mix of apprehension and determination. As the energy signatures grew stronger, a new transmission came through the facility's comm system. The voice was cold and authoritative, carrying an air of indifference that sent a chill through the team. "Your preparations are futile. The celestial convergence cannot be avoided. The Ethereal Echo's influence will bring about the inevitable. Prepare for the reckoning." The message was unsettling, underscoring the gravity of the situation. The celestial convergence was not just a threat. It was a force beyond their control, and their efforts to prepare were being overshadowed by an impending reckoning. Maria turned to her team, her expression resolute despite the fear that gnawed at her. "We face an unprecedented challenge. Our preparations will be tested, and we must remain vigilant." Isaac and Lia nodded, their resolve unwavering. "We'll do everything we can to protect Earth," Isaac said. "We've faced impossible odds before, and will face this new threat with the same determination." As the team prepared for the confrontation, Maria took a moment to reflect on their journey. The battles they had fought and the sacrifices they had made had led them to this pivotal moment. The true nature of the threat was still shrouded in mystery, but their resolve to defend their world remained unshaken. The energy signatures continued to intensify, and the facility's sensors detected a series of distortions in space-time. The celestial convergence was manifesting, and the team braced themselves for the arrival of the unknown entities. In the midst of the turmoil, Maria could only hope that their preparations would be enough to withstand the impending reckoning. The battle for Earth was entering a new and dangerous phase, and the outcome would depend on their ability to confront the unseen enemy and protect their world from the forces that sought to consume it. The energy signatures continued to fluctuate wildly, their intensity causing ripples in the fabric of reality. The facility's sensors blared warnings, indicating that the celestial convergence was no longer a distant threat, but an imminent reality. The team's focus was absolute, their every action driven by the need to prepare for the arrival of the unknown entities. Maria paced the command center, her mind racing as she considered their options. The data they had gathered indicated that the celestial convergence would bring forth entities with immense power, capable of reshaping entire worlds. Their preparations had to be flawless to stand any chance of defending Earth. Isaac and Lia worked at their stations, their eyes scanning the data streams and adjusting the facility's defensive systems. The energy barriers were holding steady, but the readings suggested that the incoming entities might possess the ability to breach them. "Maria, we've enhanced the energy barriers and deployed additional defensive measures," Isaac reported, his voice tense. "But the energy readings are still off the charts. We need to prepare for a possible breach." Maria nodded, her expression resolute. "Continue monitoring the energy signatures and adjust the defenses as needed. We need to be ready for anything." Lia, her face etched with concentration, added, "The data suggests that the convergence might manifest as distortions in space-time. We could be dealing with anomalies or breaches in reality itself." As the team worked, the energy signatures grew stronger, and the facility's sensors detected a series of spatial distortions. The air was thick with an eerie hum, and the walls of the command center seemed to ripple with the intensity of the energy surges. Suddenly, the facility's main screen flashed with an urgent alert. "Spatial distortion detected. Potential breach imminent." The warning sent a wave of anxiety through the team. They had anticipated the possibility of breaches, but the reality of facing them was a different matter. The energy barriers were their first line of defense, and their effectiveness would be crucial in holding off the incoming entities. Maria's heart raced as she directed her team. "Prepare for immediate breach protocols. Activate the emergency containment fields and reinforce all vulnerable areas." The team moved swiftly, activating the containment fields and fortifying the facility's defenses. The hum of machinery grew louder as the energy barriers intensified, casting a shimmering blue glow across the command center. As the team worked, the facility's sensors detected a sudden, intense surge of energy. The distortions in space-time became more pronounced, and the facility's systems struggled to maintain stability. The air crackled with static, and the walls of the command center shimmered as though reality itself was warping. Maria and her team braced themselves as the first signs of the celestial convergence became apparent. The space around them seemed to distort, and strange, otherworldly shapes flickered at the edges of their vision. The facility's energy barriers were pushed to their limits, and the team's focus was on maintaining control. "Maintain the barriers," Maria shouted, her voice barely audible over the roar of the energy fluctuations. "We need to hold them off until we understand what we're dealing with." The containment fields activated, creating a series of shimmering force fields that enveloped the facility. The energy barriers pulsed with a steady rhythm, their glow brightening as they absorbed the incoming surges. Isaac's hands flew over the control panels, his eyes darting between the data streams and the facility's energy readings. "The barriers are holding, but the spatial distortions are causing severe interference. We're losing some of our sensor data." Lia adjusted the controls, her face set with determination. "We need to stabilize the spatial distortions. If we can't, the containment fields might fail." The command center was a flurry of activity as the team worked to stabilize the facility and maintain their defenses. The distortions in space-time continued to intensify, and the air was filled with an otherworldly energy that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. As they fought to maintain control, a new transmission came through the facility's comm system. The voice was cold and devoid of emotion, carrying a sense of inevitability that sent a shiver down their spines. "Your defenses are inadequate. The celestial reckoning has begun, and your efforts are insignificant in the face of what is to come. Prepare for the true test of your resolve." The transmission was chilling, underscoring the gravity of their situation. The entities they faced were beyond anything they had encountered before, and their preparations were being put to the ultimate test. Maria exchanged a determined glance with Isaac and Lia. "We've faced impossible odds before, and will face this new threat with the same resolve. We need to hold our ground and find a way to counter the celestial reckoning." As the team continued to stabilize the facility and reinforce their defenses, the first manifestations of the celestial reckoning became visible. The distortions in space-time began to coalesce into tangible forms, and the facility's sensors detected the presence of the incoming entities. The command center was filled with an uneasy anticipation as the team prepared to face the unknown. The energy barriers and containment fields were their last line of defense, and their effectiveness would determine the outcome of the battle. Maria's thoughts raced as she considered the implications of the celestial reckoning. The entities they were about to confront were not just powerful, they were incomprehensible, driven by motives and forces beyond their understanding. The battle for Earth had reached a critical juncture, and their ability to confront this new threat would determine the fate of their world. The energy signatures continued to intensify, and the spatial distortions grew more pronounced. The celestial reckoning was upon them, and the team was prepared to face the ultimate challenge. The facility was a crucible of tension as the celestial reckoning loomed closer. The energy barriers pulsed rhythmically, their light casting shifting patterns across the command center's walls. Each pulse seemed to echo the heartbeat of the impending threat. Maria, Isaac, and Lia stood at the center of the chaos, their faces etched with determination as they braced for what was to come. The distortions in space-time coalesced into more defined shapes. The shimmering, otherworldly forms that appeared at the edges of their vision began to solidify into tangible, if still ethereal, entities. These beings, though vague in their outlines, exuded an immense presence, their forms shifting and warping with every passing second. Maria's voice cut through the tumult, trying to keep the team focused. "We need to determine the nature of these entities. Are they hostile, or is there a way to communicate with them?" Isaac, monitoring the data streams, responded urgently. "The readings are chaotic. It's hard to get a clear picture, but the energy signatures suggest that these entities are incredibly powerful and might possess abilities beyond our comprehension." Lia adjusted the controls, her eyes scanning the sensors. "We're getting intermittent readings of high-energy pulses and spatial anomalies. If we can stabilize the distortions, it might give us a clearer picture of what we're dealing with." As they worked, the facility's alarms blared, signaling a critical breach in one of the energy barriers. The containment fields flickered erratically, and the team's efforts to maintain control became even more urgent. Maria directed her team. "Isaac, increase the power to the containment fields. Lia, focus on stabilizing the spatial distortions. We need to keep these entities contained and gather as much information as we can." Isaac adjusted the controls, his hands steady despite the growing pressure. The energy barriers surged with increased intensity, their glow brightening as they fought to hold back the incoming entities. Lia worked furiously to stabilize the distortions, her concentration unwavering as she manipulated the facility's systems. The space within the command center seemed to warp and ripple as the distortions intensified. The air was thick with an unnatural energy, and the walls of the facility shimmered with an otherworldly light. The team's focus was on maintaining control, but the presence of the entities was becoming increasingly apparent. Suddenly, a new, more defined figure emerged from the distortions. It was tall and slender, its form shifting between solidity and translucence. The figure exuded an aura of profound power and ancient wisdom, its eyes, if they could be called that, glowing with an inner light that seemed to pierce through the fabric of reality. The entity's voice resonated through the facility, its tone calm and authoritative. Your world has attracted the attention of forces beyond your understanding. The celestial reckoning is a manifestation of the balance between creation and destruction. You stand at the precipice of a new era. Maria, her voice steady despite the awe she felt, responded. Who are you, and what do you want from us? The entity's form wavered slightly, as if contemplating its response. I am a guardian of the celestial convergence, an overseer of the balance between dimensions. Your use of the Ethereal Echo has triggered a convergence of realities, drawing attention from entities across the multiverse. Isaac, his eyes wide with curiosity and concern, asked, What is the purpose of this convergence? What does it mean for us? The Guardian's voice carried a sense of inevitability. The convergence is a natural event that occurs when the balance of power is disrupted. The Ethereal Echo, with its immense energy, has become a focal point. The entities that approach seek to harness this power for their own purposes, either to maintain or to shift the balance in their favor. Lia, her face pale with realization, spoke up. So, the celestial reckoning is not just an attack. It's part of a larger cosmic event. What are we supposed to do? The Guardian's gaze seemed to penetrate into their very souls. You have the potential to influence the outcome of this event. The decisions you make will determine whether the balance is preserved or irrevocably altered. Your world stands at a critical juncture, and your actions will shape the future of not only your reality, but the multiverse itself. The entity's words left the team in stunned silence. The gravity of their situation was more profound than they had imagined. The celestial reckoning was not merely a battle, but a crucial moment in the cosmic balance. Their choices would have far-reaching consequences, and the responsibility weighed heavily on them. Maria, her mind racing, asked, What do we need to do to ensure the balance is preserved? How can we protect Earth and ourselves? The Guardian's form began to shimmer and fade, its presence receding into the distortions. You must seek out the source of the disruption and address it directly. The Ethereal Echo's power must be controlled, and the entities that approach must be either allied with or repelled. Your path is uncertain, but your choices will determine the outcome. With that, the Guardian's presence vanished, leaving the team with more questions than answers. The distortions continued to pulse with energy, and the facility's systems struggled to maintain stability. The team's resolve was tested as they faced the enormity of their task. Isaac, his voice tinged with determination, said, We need to act quickly. If the balance is disrupted, the consequences could be catastrophic. Lia nodded in agreement. We need to find out where the source of the disruption is and figure out how to address it. The fate of Earth and the multiverse depends on our actions. Maria took a deep breath, her mind focused on the task at hand. We'll need to use every resource at our disposal to confront this threat. The celestial reckoning is a challenge unlike any we've faced before, but we'll meet it with everything we have. As the team prepared to confront the impending threat, the facility's alarms continued to blare, and the energy signatures fluctuated wildly. The celestial reckoning was at its peak, and the team's actions in the coming moments would determine the fate of their world and beyond. With a renewed sense of purpose, the team set out to uncover the source of the disruption and address the impending threat. The battle for Earth had entered a new phase, and their choices would shape the future of the multiverse. The command center hummed with tense anticipation as the team prepared for the imminent confrontation. The energy distortions continued to warp the space around them, creating a surreal, almost nightmarish atmosphere. The team's resolve was tested as they faced the enormity of the task ahead, to confront the cosmic entities drawn by the celestial reckoning and ensure the balance of the multiverse was preserved. Maria, Isaac, and Lia stood together, their expressions a mix of determination and apprehension. The Guardian's words had revealed the gravity of their situation, and their next steps were critical. They had to act swiftly and decisively to prevent catastrophe. "Let's review our strategy," Maria said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We need to locate the source of the disruption and determine how to control or repel the entities approaching Earth." "Isaac, Lia, I need your insights on the best course of action." Isaac, his face illuminated by the data streams on his console, replied, "The data we've gathered suggests that the distortions are centered around a specific spatial anomaly. If we can pinpoint the exact location, we might find a way to address the source of the disruption." Lia nodded in agreement, her fingers moving rapidly over her controls. "The anomaly appears to be fluctuating in intensity. If we can stabilize the distortions, we might be able to access more precise information about its nature and origin." As the team worked to refine their analysis, the spatial distortions continued to intensify, creating a dizzying array of shifting patterns and energy surges. The facility's systems were pushed to their limits, struggling to keep pace with the escalating disturbances. Maria reviewed the data, her mind racing with possible strategies. If the anomaly is the source of the disruption, we need to investigate it directly. We'll have to deploy a reconnaissance team to the site and gather more information. Isaac, his brow furrowed in concentration, added, "We should prepare for multiple scenarios. The entities might have a range of capabilities and motives. We need to be ready for both hostile engagements and potential diplomatic encounters." Lia's face was set with determination. "I'll coordinate with the facilities engineering team to enhance our transport and communication systems. We'll need to ensure that our team can navigate the distortions and maintain contact with the command center." With their strategy in place, the team set about preparing for the reconnaissance mission. The facility's transport systems were upgraded to handle the intense energy fluctuations, and the team's equipment was calibrated to operate in the distorted environment. As they prepared for departure, the atmosphere in the command center was thick with anticipation and resolve. The team's transport craft, equipped with advanced shielding and navigation systems, was ready to depart. The vehicle's engines roared to life, and the craft lifted off from the facility's landing pad, making its way towards the spatial anomaly. As they approached the anomaly, the distortions became more pronounced. The fabric of space-time rippled and warped, creating a surreal and disorienting landscape. The transport craft navigated through the disturbances, its advanced systems compensating for the erratic energy fluctuations. Inside the craft, Maria, Isaac, and Lia were on high alert. The readings on their instruments were erratic, and the distortions created a disorienting visual effect that made it difficult to maintain a clear perspective. "Keep your focus," Maria instructed. "We need to maintain our trajectory and gather as much information as possible." The transport craft approached the core of the anomaly, where the distortions were most intense. The sight was both mesmerizing and unsettling, a swirling vortex of energy that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The anomaly's core was a maelstrom of shifting colors and energy patterns, its intensity overwhelming. Isaac worked to stabilize the craft's sensors, trying to pierce through the chaos and obtain a clear reading of the anomaly. "We're getting some data, but it's highly distorted. I'm picking up faint energy signatures that might indicate the presence of the entities." Lia, her face tense with concentration, monitored the craft's systems. "We're experiencing fluctuations in our shielding. I'm compensating for the distortions, but we need to be cautious. Any sudden changes could destabilize the craft." As they approached the anomaly's core, the energy readings became more distinct. The distortions seemed to converge at a central point, creating a focal area of intense energy. The team's instruments detected unusual fluctuations, suggesting that the anomaly was acting as a gateway or conduit for the incoming entities. Maria's voice was filled with urgency. "We need to identify the nature of these fluctuations and determine if they're related to the entities we've been warned about. Prepare for possible contact." The transport craft moved closer to the core of the anomaly, and the energy patterns grew more complex. The team's instruments revealed a network of interconnected energy channels, suggesting that the anomaly was a conduit for a larger cosmic event. Suddenly, the transport craft's sensors detected a burst of energy that sent a jolt through the vehicle. The craft systems struggled to compensate, and the team was momentarily thrown off balance. "Status report," Maria shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Isaac's fingers flew over the controls as he assessed the situation. "We've encountered a surge in energy. The anomaly's core is fluctuating wildly, and the energy readings are becoming erratic." Lia adjusted the controls, her face set with determination. "We need to stabilize the craft and reinforce our shielding. The anomaly's core is unstable, and the fluctuations are causing significant interference." As the team worked to stabilize the transport craft, the energy patterns in the anomaly's core began to shift. The distortions intensified, and the team's instruments detected an influx of new energy signatures. The presence of the entities was becoming more pronounced, and their arrival seemed imminent. Maria, her mind racing with possible scenarios, instructed her team, "We need to prepare for potential contact with the entities. If they're arriving through the anomaly, we need to be ready to assess their intentions and respond accordingly." The transport craft systems struggled to maintain stability as the energy fluctuations grew more intense. The team's equipment was pushed to its limits, and the facility's sensors struggled to keep pace with the changes in the anomaly. As the energy surges reached their peak, the transport craft's sensors detected a massive spike in energy. The core of the anomaly seemed to implode, creating a blinding flash of light that enveloped the craft. The team's instruments went dark, and the transport craft was engulfed in a wave of energy. The craft shook violently, and the team was thrown into disarray. The intense energy pulse overwhelmed their systems, and the transport craft was thrown off course. The team struggled to regain control as the craft spun through the distortions, its systems failing to compensate for the chaotic environment. In the midst of the turmoil, a new presence emerged. The transport craft's sensors picked up a series of resonant frequencies, signaling the arrival of the cosmic entities. The team's instruments struggled to interpret the data, but it was clear that the entities were now within the anomaly. The craft's energy shields flickered as the entities approached. Their presence was overwhelming, their energy signatures a powerful force that threatened to breach the craft's defenses. Maria's voice was filled with determination as she addressed her team. "Prepare for contact. We need to assess the entities and determine their intentions. This is our chance to confront the threat and protect Earth." The transport craft continued to shake as the entities approached. The energy patterns around them became more distinct, and the team's sensors detected a series of pulsing frequencies that seemed to resonate with the anomaly's core. As the energy shields held against the entity's approach, the craft's systems began to stabilize. The team braced themselves for the confrontation, their minds focused on the task ahead. The celestial reckoning was upon them, and their actions would determine the fate of their world and beyond. With a renewed sense of purpose, the team prepared to face the cosmic entities and address the disruption at the heart of the anomaly. The battle for Earth had entered its most critical phase, and their choices would shape the future of the multiverse. The transport craft lurched violently as it approached the heart of the anomaly. The celestial reckoning had reached its zenith, and the energy disturbances were at their peak. The craft's systems were pushed to their limits, and the team's resolve was tested as they prepared for the confrontation that would decide the fate of Earth and the multiverse. Inside the craft, Maria, Isaac, and Lia were bracing themselves. The distortions in space-time created a surreal, disorienting landscape, and the energy readings were chaotic. The core of the anomaly was a swirling vortex of raw power, pulsating with an intensity that threatened to tear apart the very fabric of reality. "We're almost at the core," Maria said, her voice steady but strained. "Get ready for anything." Isaac was hunched over his console, his fingers flying across the controls. "The energy patterns are becoming more defined. We should be able to get a clearer picture of the entities soon." Lia, her face illuminated by the flickering lights of the control panel, was focused on stabilizing the craft systems. We're approaching the anomaly's core. The energy fluctuations are intense, but I'm keeping the craft stabilized as best as I can. The craft entered the core of the anomaly, and the energy surged around them, creating a disorienting array of light and shadow. The team's instruments detected a series of distinct energy signatures, each one representing a different cosmic entity drawn to the disturbance. Suddenly, the energy patterns coalesced into more defined shapes. The entities materialized before the team, powerful, otherworldly beings whose forms seemed to shift and waver between dimensions. Their presence was overwhelming, their energy signatures resonating with an almost sentient force. Maria, her eyes fixed on the entity, said, "These are the beings the Guardian warned us about. We need to communicate with them and determine their intentions." One of the entities, more defined and imposing than the others, stepped forward. Its form was both majestic and intimidating, a swirling amalgamation of light and shadow. Its voice resonated through the craft, a deep, echoing tone that seemed to reverberate through the very fabric of reality. "You have disrupted the balance," the entity intoned. "The Ethereal Echo has drawn our attention. We are here to reclaim what has been disturbed." Isaac, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation, responded, "We're here to restore balance. The Ethereal Echo was never meant to be a weapon. We need to understand its true purpose and prevent further chaos." The entity's gaze seemed to pierce through them. "The Ethereal Echo is a conduit, a key to controlling the forces of creation and destruction. Your interference has created ripples across the multiverse. To restore balance, you must make a choice." Maria, her mind racing, asked, "What choice do we have? What must we do to set things right?" The entity's form flickered, and its voice took on a somber tone. "The power of the Ethereal Echo can either stabilize the multiverse or unravel it further. To restore balance, you must harness its power in a way that aligns with a cosmic order. This requires a sacrifice, a relinquishment of something deeply personal." Lia, her face pale, asked, "What kind of sacrifice? What will it cost us?" The entity's gaze was unyielding. "The sacrifice will be profound. It may involve the loss of life, the relinquishment of power, or the renunciation of personal desires. The nature of the sacrifice will be revealed through your actions." The team was silent, the weight of the entity's words sinking in. They knew that the decision before them was monumental, and the cost of their actions would be steep. The choice they made would determine the fate of their world and beyond. Maria took a deep breath, her voice resolute. "We will do whatever it takes to restore balance. We need to understand how to use the Ethereal Echo properly." The entity's form shimmered, and the energy around them shifted. To harness the Ethereal Echo, you must first understand its true nature. Seek the core of its power and align it with a cosmic order. Only then will you be able to restore balance. As the entity's presence began to recede, the team was left with a daunting task. They needed to find the core of the Ethereal Echo's power and determine how to use it to stabilize the multiverse. The time for action was now, and their choices would have far-reaching consequences. The craft systems continued to fluctuate as they navigated the core of the anomaly. The distortions were becoming more intense, and the team's efforts to stabilize their environment were increasingly strained. The energy readings were chaotic, and the craft systems struggled to keep up with the surges of power. Maria, Isaac, and Lia worked together, their focus unwavering as they navigated the turmoil. The core of the Ethereal Echo's power was within reach, and they needed to act swiftly to prevent further disruption. Isaac monitored the readings, his face a mask of concentration. "We're getting closer to the core. The energy signatures are stabilizing, but we need to be prepared for any additional disturbances." Lia adjusted the controls, her hands steady despite the pressure. "We're on course. The core's energy is intense, but we're maintaining our trajectory." As they approached the core, the distortions intensified, creating a swirling maelstrom of energy. The team's instruments detected a central point of intense power, a focal area that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of the cosmos. Maria's voice was filled with determination. "We're almost there. We need to find a way to harness the Ethereal Echo's power and restore balance." The team's efforts to stabilize the craft continued as they approached the core. The energy patterns became more distinct, and the distortions began to resolve into a more defined structure. They were on the brink of uncovering the truth behind the Ethereal Echo and its role in the cosmic order. As they prepared for the final phase of their mission, the team knew that their actions would have a profound impact on the future of their world and the multiverse. The balance of creation and destruction was at stake, and their choices would determine the outcome of the celestial reckoning. The core of the Ethereal Echo was a pulsating nexus of raw energy, its intensity overwhelming. As the craft hovered near the core, the distortions in space-time began to resolve into a more coherent structure. The team's instruments revealed the true nature of the Ethereal Echo's power and its role in stabilizing the multiverse. Maria, Isaac, and Lia stood at the edge of the core, their faces set with determination as they prepared to act. The entity's warning about the profound sacrifice required to restore balance weighed heavily on them. They knew that the final confrontation would test their resolve and their understanding of the cosmic forces at play. "We need to harness the Ethereal Echo's power and align it with the cosmic order," Maria said, her voice resolute. "We have to act quickly to prevent further disruption." Isaac, analyzing the data, responded, "The core's energy is stabilizing. We should be able to access its full potential if we can synchronize our efforts." Lia, her face illuminated by the energy patterns, focused on the craft's controls. "I'm adjusting the settings to channel the core's power. We need to ensure that our actions align with the cosmic balance." As they worked, the energy around them began to coalesce into a more defined structure. The core of the Ethereal Echo was a complex array of interlocking energy fields, each one resonating with the rhythm of the cosmos. The team's instruments revealed the intricate patterns and connections that govern the core's power. Maria took a deep breath, her mind focused on the task at hand. "We need to align the core's energy with a cosmic order. To do that, we'll have to make a choice about how to channel its power." The team's efforts to stabilize the core were met with resistance as the energy patterns fluctuated. The core's power was immense, and the distortions created by the celestial reckoning continued to pose a challenge. Suddenly, the craft's systems detected a surge of energy that threatened to destabilize the core. The team's instruments went haywire, and the craft was jolted by the surge. The energy around them surged with a blinding intensity, and the team struggled to maintain control. "Hold on," Maria shouted, her voice filled with urgency. "We need to stabilize the core and channel the energy properly." Isaac worked furiously to compensate for the energy surge, his face a mask of concentration. "We're experiencing a massive fluctuation. I'm adjusting the controls to stabilize the core." Lia adjusted the settings, her hands steady despite the pressure. "We need to focus on the energy patterns and align them with the cosmic order. We're almost there." As they worked to stabilize the core, the energy patterns began to resolve into a more coherent structure. The team's efforts to harness the Ethereal Echo's power were starting to pay off, and the distortions in space-time began to stabilize. In the midst of the chaos, a profound realization struck Maria. The sacrifice required to restore balance was not just a personal loss, it was a relinquishment of their deepest desires and ambitions. To harness the Ethereal Echo's power and stabilize the multiverse, they would have to let go of their own desires and embrace the cosmic balance. "We have to make the sacrifice," Maria said, her voice resolute. "It's the only way to restore balance and protect our world." Isaac and Lia nodded in agreement, their faces set with determination. The sacrifice was a profound one, but they understood that it was necessary to ensure the survival of their world and the multiverse. As they prepared to make the final adjustment, the core of the Ethereal Echo began to stabilize. The energy patterns resolved into a coherent structure, and the distortions in space-time began to recede. The team's efforts had succeeded in aligning the core's power with the cosmic order. Suddenly, the energy around them began to shift, and the core of the Ethereal Echo was engulfed in a blinding light. The team shielded their eyes as the light intensified, and the craft was bathed in a brilliant glow. When the light subsided, the core of the Ethereal Echo had been transformed. The energy patterns were now harmonized with the cosmic order, and the distortions in space-time had been resolved. The team's efforts had restored balance to the multiverse, but the cost had been profound. They had made a significant sacrifice to achieve their goal, and the consequences of their actions would be felt for years to come. Maria, Isaac, and Lia stood in silence, their faces reflecting the weight of their accomplishment. They had restored balance to the multiverse and protected their world, but the price of their victory had been steep. As they prepared to leave the core, the team knew that their journey was far from over. The balance of the multiverse had been restored, but the impact of their actions would shape the future of their world and beyond. The final convergence had been achieved, and the team had emerged victorious.